For the many East Harlem residents like myself who are unemployed or underemployed, there is an urgent need for the job training that will equip us with the skills needed to be competitive for employers. Yet, funding for the quality job training, often provided by community-based nonprofit organizations, continue to decline. As mayor, what will you do to ensure that funds are available to properly invest in the skills and training of our workforce?
Okay, we're going to start with Bill de Blasio.
Thank you. It's Alicia, yes? Alicia, I appreciate this question very much because here's what's been happening in the city of New York under Michael Bloomberg. Companies have been getting extraordinary subsidies, and we, the people, have not been getting the money we need for things like you described, for the kind of training efforts that would help people dealing with a changing economy. I'll give you an example. Fresh Direct Company. We have all seen their trucks in the way on our streets. They got $130 million from the city of New York when they threatened to leave the city. Now, like so many companies, I don't think they ever were going to leave the city. I think it was kind of a modern version of a stick-up job. But the fact is, the city gave the money over. I've called for ending those kind of subsidies, taking the money, and putting it into the kinds of things that will actually build jobs at the community level. For one thing, helping our small businesses, which are starving for credit, and if they got it, they'd create jobs in the community. It would make a huge difference. Second, we could take money like that and put it into the CUNY system, so that more people, doesn't matter what age you are, that you could go back for the kind of education that would help you get the jobs that exist in New York City today. Healthcare jobs, tech jobs, things people would love to have if they had the training, but they can't afford to go to the programs that would give it to them. So this is about reprogramming resources away from individual companies to strategic investments in our own people. Finally, on the previous point, just to say this, you can go ask people in the real estate industry in this city. They would love to have some candidates elected mayor. I'm not one of them. They don't want someone who's going to demand a lot more of them, like affordable housing for our communities.
Bill, congratulations. It looks like you totally agree with the platform I put out a long time ago when it comes to creating jobs.
You know, when you're right, John.
I know. Listen, don't forget, it's a secret vote. You don't have to vote for yourself. All right? The reality is this, you know, and I have to agree with everything that Bill says because he's been saying everything that I've been talking about. When I came into office, I was very critical of these economic development corporation subsidies that were always given to big corporations and private developers who promised to create all sorts of jobs for us and wind up not doing very much of it because we audited those companies and we audited to see how many of the jobs they actually created, and we found that in the majority of the cases they created no jobs, even after getting hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases collectively billions of dollars from you, the taxpayers. And meanwhile, we're closing down those job training sites. Not only do we have to keep those job training sites open, but we have to make sure that there are jobs that come after the job training. And the way to do that is to stop subsidizing companies like Fresh Direct, which I adamantly opposed as a member of the Industrial Development Agency. I was the only one who voted no to say that this is not money that we can afford. We cannot be held hostage by these companies that threaten to leave us and then say that, we better cough up $130 million. Bill is good. He called it a modern-day stick-up job, and I think I'm going to adopt that.
You're not the only one with good sound bites, John.
So what we need to do is we need to take the subsidies away from these major corporations and actually give the breaks to small businesses and entrepreneurs all throughout the city, because with thousands of dollars in their pocket every year, they are the most likely to create the jobs. And if even a fraction of the businesses that I want to give these breaks to wind up hiring an additional person, then that's job creation to the tune of tens of thousands of new jobs all throughout the city of New York. That's the kind of program that we need here in New York City.
Okay, thank you. Eric Salgado.
Thank you, Lou. First of all, El Barrio is going to be special for me. I don't know about the rest of the candidates, but my headquarters are over here on 111 and Lexington. So viva El Barrio. when it comes to when it comes to job opportunity, we have to work with the community college. I have a doctorate in theology. I have been preaching for all my life since I was 14. But when I believe it was in 2008, I decided to learn a little bit more about our Department of Education and how we run the city. So I went to Boricua College. I was 37 then, and I was able to graduate from my associate. I started my bachelor, but then I went back to do other things for the ministry. So there is chance, even when you are an adult, that we have to work with this community college. So every single person that didn't achieve their dream when they were young, for many reasons, especially for reasons that are beyond our control, we have to make sure they have the opportunity to go to this community college, to graduate from the associate, the bachelor, and get a good job and move on life. Also, we have to make sure that we encourage the non-for-profit organization to actually come out and create programs that will benefit the different community. And how we could do that, we have 1,745 school facilities that are not used after 3 or 5 o'clock. And many of these many of these non-for-profit organizations, they are more than eager to help the community, but the number one obstacle is location. We have the location. Let's give it to them and let them create programs that will benefit the community. It will create jobs for people just like my sister over here, and also it would take our children out of the school. That's how we had to do it, and we had to do it now with Eddie Salgado for mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Dyer, you hit it on the head. There are training programs out there and across the city of New York in a number of different ways, but they're training people for jobs that don't exist. They're not training people for the jobs that exist in the future, for the jobs that will allow them to grow. And what they're getting credit for is they're getting credit for placement. So they'll work to train somebody, place them in a job that they lose 2 months later, that they weren't ready for, and it doesn't lead to anything. We need to stop that and stop the credit that they're getting, that those organizations out there, and there are lots of them. There are a number of them. First thing, we need to tie them together. We need to make sure that it's coordinated, and there's a job czar, one person in City Hall who coordinates all those organizations. That's number one. Number two, don't give people credit just for training for jobs that exist. We need to shape the training of the jobs. This is about to become an even bigger, a more high-tech city. Our people can't get the jobs. So we're creating jobs for people who don't live here. We're creating jobs for people from all over the world, not those in New York City. We need to make sure that credit is given, not for placement, but for retention. So 6 months, a year later, when someone has that job, then you get credit for it, not right now. In addition to what is happening in CUNY, our students are graduating from New York City public schools functionally illiterate, and they're going into CUNY and using their grant money up on remediation, not on job training, not on skills acquisition. We need to make that correction. We need to do a better job educationally, and in our public school system, we need to tie career and technical education in. So our young people are graduating, whether it's off to the world of college or the world of work, with the skills that they need to succeed. We need to do all of that together. That's how we turn jobs around.
Thank you. Sal Albanese.
You know, the city of New York has tremendous leverage. Our economy is as large as some countries. We're not using it to benefit New Yorkers. I authored the city's first living wage law, which impacted 70,000 workers and put $3 billion in their pockets. And we paid many of those workers $12 an hour. And that was in 1996. Here we are in 2013 debating the $9 an hour minimum wage, which I think is a tragedy. We have to increase the minimum wage. We have to index it to inflation. I'm going to push hard as May to make sure that we do that, that Albany does it. And we have to expand my living wage law to really impact tens of thousands of more workers. And any contractors who do business with the city, we are going to incentivize them, if they want to do business, to hire New Yorkers at a living wage so we can begin to get unemployment under control. And as was pointed out by some of my colleagues here, we need to use the community colleges, and I would be willing to pay for people to be trained as long as these companies that are benefiting from New York's tax breaks and what have you make a commitment to hire folks for specific jobs. The training will be very specific to to the jobs that are available. And while we've got a great community college system, we have a great CUNY system here in the city, we should be using it more effectively to benefit New Yorkers. I also want to provide tax breaks for companies that hire New York City residents that are unemployed as well.
Thank you.
Here's one example of the big disconnect that exists, just to demonstrate the magnitude of this problem and what we need to focus on. There's about 190,000 jobs that are available in the information and technology sector that we are importing people from other parts of the world and the country to fill because we have a talent deficit in New York City. There are thousands of high-skilled healthcare jobs that go unfilled by New Yorkers, and we import people from other parts of the world because we don't have the talent locally, because we haven't cultivated it or made the commitment and made the adjustments in our workforce development and workforce training modules to make sure that we deliver the jobs to local residents, New York City residents. The other thing we're failing at that creates this talent deficit and the inability to fill these jobs is that we are not, and I think it was mentioned before, growing a workforce, a domestic workforce from within our public school system. We have failed miserably, and we've been talking about education reform, ladies and gentlemen, for 60 years. And today, kids are still graduating from New York City public schools, not ready for work and not ready for college. That is a travesty that we absolutely have to address today. As mayor, I will attack this problem. We need to ensure that this, and you've heard it, the formula makes sense. The industry sectors that are growing, hook them into the city university system. Make the training relevant in these programs. And finally, ensure that just like this mayor championed the cause of gun control and gun legislation, that the next mayor will champion the cause of workforce training and development to create a modern workforce for a modern economy.
Thank you.